Tonight on Cosmic Cantina, we talk about shapeshifters, skinwalkers, and shamans. Is the ability to take on another form possible, or is it all in our heads? I'm your host, Melissa Tittle, and every week I go to my favorite bar, Cosmic Cantina, and kick back with my co-hosts, Josh Golembeski and Matt O'Connor. We talk about aliens, Bigfoot, ghosts, ancient cultures, and anything from the unseen world that needs a little illumination. Welcome to Cosmic Cantina. I'm your host, Melissa Tittle, and tonight we are drinking a Merlot called the Velvet Devil. It's from Washington State. It's pretty smooth.
It's got a pitchfork on the bottle.
Yeah.
Good label.
It's perfect for
Solid
us.
tasting.
But anyway, this is what we're drinking. It is lovely. All right, so tonight, guys, this is kind of old, but I thought it was interesting because I was just coming across some research that I was doing for a show I was writing, and I came across a Howard Stern interview with Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins. And here, take a listen to this.
What happened? Give me a for instance. I want to know.
Let's just say I was with somebody once and I saw a transformation that I can't explain.
The person transformed into something other than human.
Yes, I saw it.
Were you on drugs?
I was not. I was totally sober.
Wow.
I want to see this.
Imagine you're doing something and suddenly you turn around and there's somebody else standing there.
A different human.
Sorta. It's hard to explain without going to detail. I'd rather not go into details.
Okay, but did you say to the person, "What'd you just do here?" That's
yes,
not you.
And they acknowledged it.
And what did they say they were? From another planet?
They wouldn't explain.
So that was from a few years back, I think. And then recently, I think within the past year, maybe, I don't remember where it was, but he was on the Joe Rogan show.
Joe Rogan, yeah.
And said, basically retold the story. And I don't...
Oh, really?
I don't remember if it was like any more or less detail, but I remember he was also pretty cagey about the whole thing then, too.
I love Rogan. I never heard that episode.
Really? It was pretty good.
Anything weird or supernatural I listen to, so I'm excited.
Well,
for
he
this.
didn't really want to go into it. So, as he said, he was with somebody and he turned around and their form had changed. And I didn't see the Rogan interview, but Howard Stern was like, well, was it an animal? And he's like, no, it was like, I don't want to talk about it, but it's like another human. Right? So
he was cagey about the details for a second.
He was cagey about the details. He said it was like the most freaked out thing he's ever experienced in his life, and he just didn't really want to go into detail. So, but I just thought it was really interesting because I got into this like, well, here I was looking for information on shapeshifting as a mythological thing, and this. He said, I'm not on drugs, right? That's what he said in the interview. He's like,
Just
this really
clear.
happened. It freaks me out so much I don't want to talk about it. So I started thinking, like, could this really happen? Does this happen to humans? Do people actually shapeshift? This isn't some mythical thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, just randomly... Well, not randomly. I actually, for a project I was working on, picked up a book called Shapeshifters, A History by John B. Kachuba. Awesome name. Ooh. But it's a really cool, well-written breakdown of everything shapeshifters through history and up until like present-day stuff, and just kind of a really good sort of overview of, everything from the old medieval version of shapeshifters. It happened a lot in Europe, in France. Well, actually, in France, it was like a huge deal for whatever reason. Werewolves were.
Yeah, the origin of the werewolf story started in France.
Yeah, the loup-garou, I think it was.
The loup-garou
was what it was known as.
Well, France is the place with the cave where they had the depiction of the like half human, half kind of reindeer-looking head.
Oh, really?
Creature in Trois Frise. The cave is called Trois Frise. And I'm not French, so I'm sorry if I screwed that up.
Butchered it. But.
Butchered it. Woo! But they have images of like a pictograph of like a sorcerer, basically like a half human, but it has like a reindeer head.
Yeah, so sorcerers, medicine men, shamans, all that kind of thing. It's like it takes two different forms. There's the shapeshifter that grants you the power or knowledge. Actually, there's another form as well you were talking about, but we'll go into that in a second. Yeah. That grants the magic person power or knowledge, and it's also can be a curse on someone where they've wronged or slighted some sort of powerful person, and they've cursed this unfortunate soul with becoming some sort of animal. And I think it's
like physically, or they become the embodiment. Like
So these are all the-
emotionally, they act
I
like
mean
an animal.
that's kind of the old myth. Where
Suddenly they're growling.
and I guess that's what most of the werewolf movies are kind of based on, it being a curse.
Okay, so these are all the different versions of shapeshifting.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
But this book goes into a lot of stuff. It goes into like all the.
What's it called again?
It's called Shapeshifters: A History.
Ooh.
It's pretty cool. But it goes into stuff like what David Icke talks about, the shape-shifting reptilians. I think he calls them archons now. He doesn't sort of go reptilian anymore.
Is that as specific
it's
anymore?
evolved.
yeah.
Oh, so it's kind of like it could be anybody, because the archons could be the elites, it could be the reptilians, maybe they're all the same.
Yeah,
That
that's-
Oh, so it's a
It's
term
like
for
Yeah.
people of power.
But yeah, cool stuff. Thinking about sort of more recent time stuff, I got really into the whole idea of like skinwalkers as well. It was like
The Native American
Yeah.
legends.
Native American legends.
Could you explain to us what a skinwalker is?
Native American legend, and it's basically a witch, a bruja, is what they say in Spanish. And they have the ability to, and it's always like a negative entity too, but they have the ability to become an animal, usually a coyote or a wolf or something like that.
And when you say that, do you mean like they physically transform, or they take on the embodiment of it, and they're still a human acting like an animal?
They physically transform, but what was the other one where they actually kind of transport their spirit into an animal?
That's more of like a the sorcerer is the one that turns itself into something, but the shaman is the one that uses the animal's body and transports their spirit into it.
Yeah, yeah.
So kind of like in Game of Thrones with the ravens, right? The ravens come
good
and
reference.
they're controlled.
It's like they put their astral body into
Yes,
the animal
and then
control
it comes back with the information. Then they go and see who was the kid that was paraplegic, the son.
Yeah.
In Game of
I know what
Thrones,
you're
right?
talking about, yeah.
So he transports himself into the actual ravens, and
The Stark,
he
the Stark kid.
the Stark kid, yeah.
Yeah, that's one version.
So
Yeah.
that's one version of that. That's completely different than turning into a werewolf or a coyote.
Yeah, so I kind of got off on a tangent on like skinwalkers, and I was looking for like stories, and it kind of like creeped me out because I was doing it late at night, and it's like it's when you
It's the
start.
best time to research, right?
Yeah, that's when you start like
Oh, there's
noticing
one in my
shadows in the
window.
corner. And, yeah, it got super freaky. So.
Wait, so what do they look like?
Whatever they want. Yeah.
So they're basically a witch or a sorcerer that turns themselves into a coyote or werewolf, but they don't look completely like a animal, right? Don't they have? Don't they
Kind
look
of a
No,
a
I
hybrid
little
think
bit
they
different?
do, but there's always stories about like there's something off about it. It's not. It's whether it's like a sort of a sixth sense feeling about it, like a psychic feeling that something's not right about. Because we live in Colorado here. I've seen coyotes numerous times, and it's like, oh, cool, a coyote. But I guess when you see this creature, there's something there's something dark about it.
No,
Dark.
totally. Dark. Maybe it's a weird mix. It's like it's animal, but it's humanoid. Maybe it's walking on two legs. Like the stories of Skinwalker
Yeah.
Ranch, when you'll see like an upright walking coyote or an upright walking jack hyena.
Oh yeah,
And
right.
Skinwalker Ranch is in Utah, correct?
It's in Utah,
yeah.
Yeah. So
big
anyway, I
old-
came across this like crazy story when I was looking up
break it down.
Skinwalker stuff. Yeah, and I dive into it. It's actually from the Mysterious Universe website.
Sorry, we're at a bar. We're drinking. It's fine.
Universe.
I'm drinking
Sorry
the
about
Velvet
that.
Devil.
So anyway, one of the guys who is a writer on their website contributes a lot of stuff to him and to other places as well. His name's Brent Swanser, and he wrote this story that actually happened to him, which was super interesting. He kind of calls back to a time when he was like 18 years old, and he was sort of wanted to visit his friend. He was living in California, wanted to visit his friend in Denver, Colorado.
Ooh,
So
okay.
he's going to do the road trip over the weekend and hang out with him, have a good time. So he was 18 years old, didn't have a whole lot of money, and he just sets out on this thing and on this journey. And he said, you know, he was like 6'3", and he was like pretty fit at the time. He was working out and stuff. He was jacked. Yeah. So he was like, you know, I wasn't really worried about anything going wrong to begin with, but you know, he felt like he could handle himself.
Yeah, American man.
It's like, I'm an Aussie in America. I can handle anything.
Well, he wasn't that cool. I don't think he's Aussie.
Oh, I thought he was.
No, the Mysterious Universe guys are.
Oh, okay.
So anyways, so he's driving from California to Denver, and you know, halfway, I don't know my geography that well, but halfway roughly he's in Nevada.
Okay.
Oh, he's not halfway.
Yeah, that's like 3/4, but whatever.
Sure. Okay. So it's pretty fair distance into his travels. So he's in Nevada. It's late at night.
Give him shit.
And
Two people from California.
fuck you guys. You know what? Fuck you guys.
It's okay, Aussie. Continue. It's all right.
Get your geography right.
Sorry. So anyway, he's in Nevada, and he's starting to feel a bit tired. There's like this huge swath of road that's just like boring as fuck, and
Makes sense.
not a lot to see. He's starting to get a little tired, and he's like, I have no money. Like, he barely has money for fuel and food and stuff. So he's like, I'll just pull up near a one of the rest stops. You call them rest stop, right?
Yeah,
Just,
a
you know,
restaurant.
there's little rest stops.
Yeah.
So
With
he
a
pulls
bathroom.
off the highway. Yeah, it's got a bathroom there and stuff. Pulls off the highway, and you know, just pulls into a parking spot in the parking lot there, and kind of puts his seat back, and is like, notices that there's no one else around. It's just him, and he's like,
Freaky.
it's a little secluded here. I don't know if this is a good idea. And then he kind of just like falls asleep.
What?
Yeah.
Terrible idea.
Yeah, this is a terrible idea.
But you know, he's like young 18-year-old kid. You know,
Jacked.
Doesn't feel, he's jacked.
Yeah.
We'll keep coming back to that. Jacked. Good on you, Brent. Anyway, so he falls asleep, and he's awoken by a tap on the window.
Ew.
And he looks up, like he shoots up. It's like,
Yeah.
holy shit. And shoots up in his seat and sees that there's kind of a young kid, couple of years older than him, maybe, like early 20s, looking through the window, just kind of smiling at him.
Oh, a smile.
Oh,
And
God, that gives me creeps.
this kid says to him, open the door, just calmly, just open the door. And
No, don't open the door. He opens the door?
Brent, don't do that. You're this person in the theater that says this shit. Don't go down there.
That's totally me. That's totally me. Don't ever go see a movie with me. It's terrible.
So anyway, he's like, he immediately like feels like, this doesn't feel right. Like this kid is not. And he kind of like, when he wakes up, he says it's kind of bright out. Like he feels like it's kind of early morning. So when he kind of like is a little disoriented, you know, he just woken up, and he says to this guy, like, just calmly, like, no, I'm not opening the door. And then this kid,
No, thank you, sir.
yeah, well, I tried, thank you. No, this kid like gets more aggressive and says, open the door, and he says it with like a growl.
Ooh.
It's like, open the door. Like,
Okay, so this is where you reverse out of the parking spot.
Just get the fuck out of there. Anyway, so he's like, you know, at this point, he's like, all right, this kid means trouble, but he thinks the best thing to do is, I have a knife in the car. A knife? He doesn't know what a knife
Oh,
is.
so he's
turns
not
out.
Aussie, but he has a knife.
He does, yeah. He has a knife. So he pulls the knife out and just kind of like puts it on his lap just to show the kid, like, if you want trouble, I'll fucking give you trouble. And he thinks, you know, any
18-year-old
reasonable person
boys.
would be like, all right, I don't want to get cut. I'll back off. But this kid just leans into the aggressiveness. And he said he shoves the car all of a sudden. And Brent says he actually remembers the car feeling like it lifted off the ground a little bit. Like this kid was strong, like abnormally strong.
Ooh.
That's when now we're getting weird.
Yeah, and this is when it
reverse
starts to really
car.
get crazy. Yeah. So, and he kind of notices that there's two other kids behind him. But he said there's something really off about these two kids. And he said it was like he couldn't focus on them properly. It was like they were out of focus, but he was like trying to look at them. And he said there was something about, there was like a glow to their eyes. It was like wasn't sure if they were glowing slightly or if they were reflecting light in a really weird way, which, you know, humans actually can't do. If
Yeah.
you shine a light in their eyes, it doesn't